Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will call the council meeting to order. If I could, we'll begin this afternoon's meeting with a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Madam Clerk, the meeting is yours.
Through you, Your Worship. Item 2 is declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations? And if so, please state the general nature thereof.
Seeing none.
Item 3 is adoption of the minutes, and there is a motion that the minutes of the special meeting dated December 8th and the regular meeting dated December 13th of Council of the Corporation of the City of Stratford be adopted as printed.
Moved by Councillor Bunting, second by Councillor Henderson. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and it's carried.
Item 4 is adoption of the addendum, and just prior to today's meeting, an addendum was circulated to add item 5.2 and a bylaw to section 11. And there is a motion that the addendum to the regular agenda of council and standing committees dated December 20th be added to the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Ingram, second by Councillor Burback. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and it's carried.
Item 5 is report of the Committee of the Whole in-camera session, and item 5.1, just prior to today's meeting, an in-camera session was held to consider the following matters. Item 4.1, QP 197, Outside Workers Division Contract Negotiations Update, and that was under the Labor Relations or Employee Negotiations exemption. And item 5.1, Appointment to Festival Hydro Services, Inc. Board of Directors under the Personal Matters about an Identifiable Individual, including municipal employees or local board, exemption. At the in-camera session, direction was given on all items. Moving to your addendum, item 5.2, at the December 20th session of the Municipal Act as amended, a matter concerning the following item was considered, and that was item 4.1, QP 197, Outside Workers Division Contract Negotiations Update. And there is a motion that the memorandum of settlement with the Canadian Union of Public Employees, Outside Workers Division, Local 197, effective January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022 be ratified, and that the Mayor, Clerk, Chief Administrative Officer, and Director of Human Resources, or their respective delegates, be authorized to sign the memorandum of settlement and the collective agreement where applicable.
Moved by Councillor Gaffney and seconded by Councillor Azalakos. Discussion. If not, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you.
Returning to your agenda, item 6 is hearings of deputations and presentations, and item 6.1 is a presentation of the blue plaques by Heritage Stratford. And there is a motion that the presentation by Cambria Ravenhill on behalf of Heritage Stratford Committee of the 2021 Blue Plaque Award be heard.
Moved by Councillor Ingram and seconded by Councillor Burback. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. The clerk will now bring Ms. Ravenhill into the meeting.
Hello.
There I go.
Sorry,
Good
I'm just getting used to this. I'm Brian Johnson. I'm one of the members of the Stratford Heritage Committee. Along with Cambria Ravenhill and Barb Cottle and myself, we selected a couple of blue plaque winners for this year. Blue plaque's a heritage designation for buildings throughout the city that doesn't come with any of the requirements or restrictions that an actual heritage designation comes with. It's more of kind of a tourism-y recognition type of thing. Anyway, this year we solicited nominees from the public, and we came up with 2 winners this year. One at 198 Birmingham Street, which was the house of James Palmer Rankin, and the second was 138 Wells Street, which was the childhood home of Richard Manuel. And we've created a presentation to kind of give you the history and the reasons why.
Is there any sound? Can you hear the sound?
No.
I haven't been able to hear the sound yet. just bits and
Okay,
pieces.
Tatiana, are you able to play this?
Through your worship, I am just working to correct the sound.
Okay.
Oh, Cambria's there. I didn't
Yeah.
realize she was there.
I'd like to welcome Richard and Lucy Nesbitt. It's good to see you both.
Yes. And just to make sure, it's 198 Church Street that is one of our awards.
Sorry about that.
Right.
I can also share my screen and try to play it, Tatiana.
If you wouldn't mind, I can't figure out why the sound isn't coming through for you guys.
This is a problem with Zoom. No, it's a traditional problem with Zoom.
Okay. Can you see my screen or do I need to share it?
You need to share it.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect. Let's see if this works. It worked this morning. Okay,
A lovely house.
I'm going to stop sharing. Quickly see if I can redo this.
The Blue Plaque Award is an international program that links important people or events with places in our community. The Heritage Stratford Committee is proud to announce the Blue Plaques for 2021. The first is for 198 Church Street in honor of the Honorable James Palmer Rankin. The second is in honor of Richard Manuel at 138 Wells Street. The Honorable Dr. James Palmer Rankin was a local man who made immeasurable contributions to Perth County. James Palmer Rankin, the son of immigrants from the UK, studied at Trinity College, University of Toronto, and the University of Edinburgh. Dr. Rankin received his degree in medicine, and in November of 1880, he married Mary Jane McKee of Toronto. They moved to Stratford, and Rankin set up practice as a physician and surgeon. These were boom years for Stratford, as the railway. During this time, many of our beautiful downtown buildings and commercial blocks were erected to meet the growing importance of Stratford. The Gordon Block and other blocks down Wellington, Ontario, and Downing Streets, the Pump House, the Perth Courthouse, and the jail, and the Avon Crest Hospital. Rankin was defeated when he ran for re-election to the House of Commons in 1911. However, in 1914, he became involved with the He had been a major in the volunteer 28th Perth for over a decade, and during World War I, he served as Lieutenant Colonel in the Perth Regiment of the Canadian Army Medical Corps. Incidentally, his son Ramsay Rankin was also a doctor and served in the Canadian Army Medical Corps during the war. Sadly, Dr. Rankin's wife, Mary Jane, died in 1950, and their son Ramsay died in 1921. Ramsay's son, also called James Palmer Rankin, was subsequently raised by his grandfather in Stratford. After the war, Dr. Rankin went on to represent Perth North again in the House of Commons of Canada from 1921 to 1925 as a Liberal. This was followed by his appointment as a Senator for the Dominion of Canada, sitting for the Perth North Division in the Senate from 1925 to 1934, a post he held until he passed away while still in office at the age of 79 years. The Honorable Dr. J.P. Rankin lived at 198 Church Street from 1920 until his passing on June 15, 1934. He was laid to rest in Avondale Cemetery, Stratford, Ontario. Dr. Rankin was nominated by Lucy Lawler and Richard, Olivia, and Lily Nesbitt, who currently live in his former house at 198 Church Street. The Honorable Dr. James Palmer Rankin, the son of immigrants, was a key contributor to the development of Stratford and Perth County, first as a physician and then as a politician, distinguishing himself with his exemplary service in countless ways over a 50-year career. Richard Manuel was born in Stratford on April 3rd, 1943. His father Ed was a mechanic and his mother Gladys was a school teacher. He and his three brothers grew up at 138 Wells Street, where the family moved in 1948. He started playing piano at age 9 and was rehearsing music with friends at the Manuel home by the time he was 12. When he was 15 in early 1959, Manuel helped form a local band called The Rebels. The original members were Ken Kilmusky, leader of Great Speckled Bird, on bass, John Till, later with Janis Joplin's Full Tilt Boogie Band on guitar, and Richard Manuel on piano and lead vocal. The lineup later expanded to include Doug Rhodes and Garth Pico. The Rebels were a favorite band in Stratford. Many people still talk about their memories of seeing the band. They are honored in Allen's Alley. The Rebels played across Southern Ontario, and in the summer of 1960, they opened for Ronnie Hawkins and the Hawks in Port Dover. The following spring, Hawkins opened for the Rebels at the Stratford Coliseum. After that show, he offered to manage the band. By mid-September of 1961, Hawkins had recruited the then 18-year-old Richie Manuel to be a piano player in his own band, the Hawks. Manuel stayed with the Hawks until 1964, when that group was recruited to be Bob Dylan's backing band for a European tour. They then officially became the band in 1967. The band with Robbie Robertson played its final show in its original configuration on U.S. Thanksgiving Day of 1976. The concert was filmed by longtime fan Martin Scorsese for the classic documentary, The Last Waltz. The band partially reformed in 1983, with Manuel staying until his death in 1986. The band was highly influential in the 1960s and 70s rock for its resonant fusion of rock, rhythm and blues, and country music. In particular, their debut album, Music from Big Pink, released in 1968, solidified their reputation as groundbreaking composers and musicians. Nicknamed The Beak for his protruding nose, Manuel was a beloved and respected songwriter and vocalist, influencing and collaborating with fellow artists Eric Clapton, Van Morrison, Willie Nelson, the Beach Boys, and Bonnie Raitt. In November 1984, 4 original members of the Rebels, Manuel, Rhodes, and Till, reunited in Stratford as the Rebels, opening for the band. 2 sold-out performances, billed as the Band Rebels reunion shows. It was a triumph. Then on March 4th, 1986, Richard Manuel died by suicide. He was a month away from his 43rd birthday and endured many years of addiction to alcohol and drugs. He was buried a week later at Avondale Cemetery in Stratford after a service at Knox Presbyterian Church. John Till gave the eulogy. Rhodes, Till, and Kilmusky were pallbearers. In 2004, the city of Stratford honored Manuel with a sidewalk star on Ontario Street. There is also a memorial bench by the Avon River dedicated to him. In 1994, he was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of the band. In 2015, he was also inducted into the New York Blues Hall of Fame.
I hope you enjoyed our short video on our awards. We thought we'd just leverage the whole virtual meeting environment. I would like to say that part of our mandate as Heritage Stratford is to promote heritage within the Stratford community. And we had quite a few nominations that came through from our program earlier this year that we called Tell Us Your Story. And I want to thank Betty Jo Belton and Ellen Thomas from Stratford Perth Archives, Michaela Fitzsimmons from the Stratford Perth Museum, our committee, particularly Barb Cottle, who put that video together and volunteered her husband, Jamie Cottle, to be the voice of the video. I'm sure if you listen to morning local radio, you recognize Jamie's voice. And in particular, I want to thank our homeowners, Lucy and Richard, Lucy Lawler and Richard Nesbitt, and their 2 girls currently live at 198 Church Street, and they nominated the Honorable Dr. Rankin for this award. And this is specifically why we reached out to the community to find people that we didn't know about. They are here joining us today, so thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Yes, the Nesbitt family, who are at 138 Wells Street, could not attend, but they are also very excited about getting this award. And we usually do this in person, and we have our plaques with us. But our plaques, as with so many COVID things, have been delayed, and we won't have them till the beginning of February. At that point, we would like to actually see if we can have some in-person presentations and mounting later in the spring. COVID and weather restrictions, of course, being addressed at that time. But we will keep council informed of our timing if you would like to attend an in-person presentation as well. So again, thank you very much to Lucy and Richard. We really appreciate the nomination, and it's a well-deserved award for Dr. Rankin.
Thank you.
Are
Thank you
there
so much.
any questions from council?
No, I just say on behalf of council, thank you to, of course, Richard and Lucy for the nomination, and to you, Cambria, and your committee, and Brian for the work that Barb and Jamie and everyone put into the presentation this afternoon. I know that the heritage of our community is something we take very seriously, and it's something that has marketed our community well to our tourism, and having these two properties recognized for the individuals that resided there early on will be another feather in our cap as we continue to build out and tell the story of Stratford. So thank you very much to you and your committee, and all the best for the Christmas season.
You too. Thank you very much.
All right, Madam Clerk, we'll go to the next item. Thank you.
So through your worship, item 7 is orders of the day, and item 7.1 is a resolution, and it's regarding an extension of household hazardous waste contract. And there is a staff recommendation that council approve the extension of the contract with Fotech Environmental for the collection, processing, and recycling of hazardous waste for 1 year to March 31st, 2023.
Moved by Councillor Vasilakos and seconded by Councillor Ingram. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried.
Item 7.2 is correspondence, and it's a petition from the Stratford branch of the Canadian Federation of University Women. And there is a motion that the petition dated December 11th from the Stratford branch of the Canadian Federation of University Women urging council to support the climate action plan by providing sufficient funds and resources be received for information.
Moved by Councillor Ritzma, seconded by Councillor Burback. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried.
Item 7.3 is a resolution. It's regarding the service delivery review update and implementation plan. And there is a staff recommendation that the service delivery review update for December 2021 be received for information.
Moved by Councillor Gaffney and seconded by Councillor Bunting. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried.
Item 7.4 is a resolution regarding amendments to the traffic and parking bylaw, and there is a staff recommendation that Schedule 9 yield signs of the traffic and parking bylaw 159-2008 be amended by adding the following streets noted on the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Vasilakos and seconded by Councillor Burback. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried.
Item 8 is business for which previous notice has been given and there was none scheduled. So moving to item 9, reports of the standing committees. Item 9.1 is report of the Infrastructure, Transportation, and Safety Committee. And there are 6 items listed for consideration as follows. That's item 9.1.1, Stratford Landfill Public Input invited November 2021. Item 9.2, amendment to Schedule 2 of Bylaw 113-79, Noise Control Bylaw. Item 9.1.3, extension of the water and sewage billing services agreement with Festival Hydro Inc. for 1 year. Item 9.1.4, renewal of the Town of Goderich Fire Dispatching Agreement. Item 9.1.5, 30-minute parking on Wellington Street. And item 9.1.6, waste cooking oil at the landfill.
Moved by Councillor Seven that the report be adopted and seconded by Councillor Burback. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried.
Item 9.2 is the report of the Finance and Labor Relations Committee, and there are 6 items listed for consideration as follows. Item 9.2.1, financial statements and commentary for Festival Hydro Inc. for Q3 ending September 30th and Festival Hydro Services Inc. for Q3 also ending September 30th. Item 9.2.2, Destination Stratford Q3 update. Item 9.2.3, Stratford Economic Enterprise Development Corporation update to October 2021. Item 9.2.4, Q3 operating budget variance report as of September 30th. Item 9.2.5, Advisory Committee 2021 annual reports, and item 9.2.6, tax relief request for supplemental billing issued by the city.
Moved by Councillor Gaffney and seconded by Councillor Vasilakos. Discussion, Councillor Henderson.
Yes, I'd like to encourage people to read 9.2.5 because you'll get an annual report there of the active transportation, Heritage Stratford, Accessibility Advisory, Energy and Environment, Town and Gown, Stratford of the World's Community in Bloom. So then you can see what all those committees have been up to over the year. It's very interesting read. A lot of work going on in the city.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Seven.
Thank you. Could we take 9.2.6 separately, please?
Thank you. Yes. All right. I'll call the question then on 921 through 925. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And then item 926, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? And 2 opposed. That's carried. Thank you.
Item 9.3 is report of the Community Services Subcommittee, and there's one item listed for consideration, and that's item 9.3.1, Canadian Dairy Expo parking request.
Moved by Councillor Ritzma and seconded by Councillor Clifford. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried.
Item 9.4 is report of the Planning and Heritage Committee, and there's one item listed for consideration. That's item 9.4.1, proposed exemption from sign bylaw 159-2004, section 14 and sections 21.11 C and D. I would ask that the chief building official join the meeting and provide just a brief overview as this matter was deferred from the December 13th council meeting.
Good afternoon, Mr. DeWeerd. I'll turn the floor to you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and through you, Your Worship. I think we just wanted to provide some clarity to Council with regards to the ground sign GS3. That sign has been permitted and has been, to our understanding, has been fabricated. So we just wanted to provide that clarity to Council. The sign does meet the bylaw if it is a standalone one-off ground sign, but because there's a provision in there for multiple ground signs, that's where the request for the 20.42 additional square feet is. So not to say that Council cannot make the decision that they wish on this matter, but that would mean that they would have to refabricate the ground sign if the additional 2 GS1 and GS2 are approved. So that's the only item we wanted to clarify, and I can answer any questions that Council may have.
All right. Councillor Ingram.
Yes, thank you. So for Mr. DeWeerd, the 20.42 square feet, is that a collective sign area then between all 3 ground signs, or is this specific just to GS3?
Through you, Your Worship, it is just for sign GS3. The provision is 107.64 square feet for each ground sign if there's multiple ground signs, and 161.46 square feet if it's a single ground sign on the site. So it is just for the ground sign 3, GS3.
Thank you.
Anything further? If not, I'll call the, do we have a mover and a seconder? Just want to confirm that.
Through your worship, no, we do not.
All right, would somebody be willing to move the report as presented? Councillor Henderson, seconded. Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Seven.
Thank you. Sorry, I guess I'm just a little, I need more clarification. So if this motion passes, then if Mr. DeWeerd could just clarify then what position that puts the applicant in?
Mr. DeWeerd.
Sure. Through Your Worship, if it's the motion is passed as written. The applicant would have to refabricate GS3, ground sign 3, to meet the bylaw, which is the 107.46 square feet.
Thank you.
Councillor Ingram?
Thank you. Mr. DeWeer, can you confirm the sign area for both GS1 and GS2 too, please?
Should have that note here. You know what? My apologies. I do not have that square footage here, but they were smaller signs. I think they were around 6 or 8 square feet, if I recall.
And that was each. So they'd be exceeding just because of GS3 by 20.42 square feet. And the other 2 ground signs are only 6 to 8 square feet each.
That is correct, through your worship. Those 2 signs both do meet. They're less than 107 square feet. So each individual sign would be permitted to have 107 square feet. So those 2 signs are well under that square footage. It's only the ground sign, which is like a pylon sign almost, would be the one that would be exceeding.
Thank you.
Councillor Henderson, did I see your hand? And then Councillor Seven.
Yes, I'm a bit confused now. So if we pass this motion, does that mean the large sign that they've already fabricated won't be allowed? And if that's true, how do we ensure it is allowed?
Mr. DeWeer?
Through your worship, I wonder if the clerk would speak to that. I'm wondering if we would need a modification to the motion to permit the additional square footage.
So through your worship, it's my understanding that the first part of the motion and the second part go together. So I believe they either have to all be approved or all be denied. So that would require a motion to amend the main motion.
So a motion to sever, we could vote on number 1 and then vote on number 2 separately, correct?
Through the chair, correct. However, I believe depending on the outcome, we would still run into the situation where a sign would maybe need to be refabricated.
Okay, Councillor Seven, anything further on from you? And then I see Councillor Ingram's hand.
Thank you. So just if I could clarify, is GS3, is this the sign? I think Mr. Crinclaw at the last meeting mentioned that it would be, they'd have to take off the hours to make it fit into the existing bylaw. Is that correct?
Mr. DeWeer?
Yeah, that is my understanding, is that was the sign that was in question. Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Ingram?
Thank you. I think I'm good for it at the moment.
Okay, Councillor Henderson, did you have another question?
I'm withdrawing my motion.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Ingram, are you wanting to move that now?
Yeah, so I'll make an amended motion, please, to approve the first part, approve the second part, and deny the third.
So what you're saying is that you would approve GS3.
Correct?
You would approve GS1 and GS2 to that size, and you would deny the use of feathered flags.
Correct.
Okay, is there a seconder to that? Councillor Ritzma. Discussion. Councillor Henderson.
I'm just double checking. So does that mean their sign now would be able to go forward? So
Yeah.
everything would, so all the things in the pictures would be there except the feathered sign.
Correct.
Okay, I'm good with that. Thank you.
Anything further? Councillor Seven.
Thank you. I'm going to support the motion, but I guess I was a little bit torn. I do have concerns about sort of the precedent of, if the sign's already made, that's not really our responsibility. But I think I'm willing to support it in this case. But that is on the back of my mind as well. I just voicing my thoughts. So.
Thank you. Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I agree with what Councillor Seven says. I fear we'd be setting a precedent that anybody that wanted a sign, the way to do it would be that contravenes our bylaw would be to go out and make the sign, have it sitting on their front lawn ready to put up, and then come and ask us what our bylaws are. So I'm not going to support this this solution to the problem. Thank you.
All right. Anything further? Councillor Henderson.
So I was just Googling the old place, and it looks like they've got quite a few signs. They've got signs out by the tree. They've got a sign by the fence. And then when you go around the side towards the landfill, they've got 1, 2, 3 signs along there. So, I mean, I don't know what their total square footage already was there. And I believe the last couple of amendments that we did something like this is that there were signs or pretty close to signs. And so that's the reason I can support this, is because they already had signs. And this is actually going to look neater. Well, except for the ones on the cement maybe, but the rest, they look a lot neater.
Thank you. All right. Is there anything further? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Thank you.
Item 10 is notice of intent, and item 10.1 is notice of meeting under the Planning Act. And Stratford City Council will hold public meetings on Monday, February 7th, 2022 at 6 p.m. to hear all interested persons with respect to the following applications: draft plan of subdivision application 31T21-003 and zone change application Z13-21. That's for 3025 line 34. Zone change application Z15-21 for 555 Downey Street, and zone change application Z1621 for 4192 Short Street.
Thank you.
Item 11 is reading of the bylaws, and there are in total 8 bylaws listed for consideration as follows. Item 11.1 is the amending agreement with the town of Goderich for fire dispatching services. Item 11.2 is an addendum agreement with Festival Hydro Inc. for water and sewage billing and collection services. Item 11.3 is the fees and charges bylaws. And following the December 13th meeting, an amendment was made to certain fees in the schedule related to fire services. Amendments were made following receipt of a communication from the MTO advising that certain rates had to be increased, and those changes have been incorporated. Item 11.4 is to amend Schedule 9 yield signs of the traffic and parking bylaw. Item 11.5 is to amend Schedule 16 30-minute metered zone of the traffic and parking bylaw. 11.6 is to amend the noise control bylaw to amend park zone prohibitions. Item 11.7 is an extension agreement for lease of farmland on Vivian Line 37. And turning to your addendum, item 11.12 is the execution of a memorandum of settlement and collective agreement with the Canadian Union of Public Employees Local 197. And these bylaws can be taken collectively upon unanimous vote of council present.
Moving such as Councillor Ritzman, second by Councillor Burback. Discussion. Councillor Gaffney.
I wonder, Your Worship, if we could take 11.5 separately.
Yes, we can. Anything further? All right, then the motion is that bylaws 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 12 be taken collectively upon unanimous approval. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. So we'll go to first and second reading of bylaws 11, 1 through 4, and 6, 7, and 12. Councillor Henderson, you'll move that. Seconder is Councillor Vasilakos. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Third and final reading for bylaws 11, 1 through 4, or 1 through 4, and 6, 7, 12 is Councillor Clifford and Councillor Bunting. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Moving for bylaw 11.5 for first and second reading. Councillor Burback and Councillor Seven. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Unopposed, that carries. Third and final reading of bylaw 11.5. Councillor Ingram and Councillor Henderson seconding. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried.
Item 12 is the consent agenda. Are there any items listed on the consent agenda to be considered by council?
Seeing none, we'll then go to new business, and I have one item I'll bring up to date with council. I did have a conversation this morning with Warden Jim Aitchison of the County of Perth, which is in regard to the former archives building on St. Andrew Street with regard to preservation of that building. The warden has committed to having a meeting in the new year with regard to the building and its future, with regard to what is proposed and what has been reviewed. And I would like the opportunity to have that meeting and bring it back. I have talked to the CAO. To date, there has not been a demolition permit applied for the building, and I will seek an assurance from the warden that they will not undertake to do that during the Christmas holiday while we await that opportunity to have a meeting. So I just tell members of council that for their information. Councillor Clifford, I saw your hand next.
It was the archives, Your Worship.
Okay. Anything further under new business? Councillor Ingram.
Just on the archive building, I believe it is part of the Heritage Conservation District and it would be required to come through council for approval for a demolition. Is that correct?
Ms. Bridge, I believe, is on the line, our manager of planning, so I'll let Ms. Bridge answer that question.
Through your worship to Councillor Ingram, that's correct. The building is located in the Heritage Conservation District and a demolition permit would ultimately come to council for approval or refusal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
I just want to clarify things because I think, several people are wondering about this, including myself. My understanding is the jail, the archives, and the courthouse are owned by the county, but are in the city limits. Is that true?
As I understand it, the jail is owned by the province. The archives building, the Service Ontario building, and the courthouse are owned by the county, but they are subject to city bylaws and such.
Did you say the archives are owned by Service Ontario?
No, I said the archives building, the former archives building, and the Service Ontario building is owned by the county.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Perfect.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn for the purposes of attending standing committees. And the first one is scheduled is Finance and Labor Relations, and Councillor Gaffney is the chair. A motion to adjourn for that purpose. Councillor Ingram and Councillor Clifford. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Councillor Gaffney, you're in the chair.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll call this meeting of the Finance and Labor Relations Committee to order. Item 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Seeing none, subcommittee meetings are attached. Item 4, delegations, none scheduled. Item 5, report of the interim director of human resources. Item 5.1, update of the call-in and standby for management policy. Moved by Councillor Clifford, seconded by Councillor Bunting. Does anybody have any questions for the director? See none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Item 6, report of the manager of tax revenue. Item 6.1, tax adjustment summary 2021. Moved by Councillor Ingram, seconded by Councillor Vasilakos. Any questions or comments? Councillor Seven.
Thank you. I was just wondering if the manager was available to sort of give a Cole's notes of it for the public, if that's possible.
I think so. Oh, yes. Go ahead, Carmen.
Thank you, through the chair. This is really just a report that comes forward to council every year relating to any what we internally refer to as tax write-offs. So it's adjustments that happen to the tax roll as a result of applications to MPAC for reductions in assessment, which then translate into reductions in taxation. I've included in this report as well this year, the offsetting or the corresponding information relating to supplemental tax revenues so that it would have a little bit more context. And I'm happy to answer any specific questions if there are any.
See none. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Item 7, report of the acting director of corporate services. 7.1, interim tax levy due dates bylaw for 2022. That's moved by Councillor Burback, second by Councillor Bunting. Any questions? See none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Item 7.2, temporary borrowing bylaw for 2022. Councillor Clifford and Councillor Vasilakos. Any questions or comments? See none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Item 7.3, reserve fund utilization 2022 budget. Moved by Councillor Ritzma, seconded by Councillor Henderson. Any questions or comments on that? Councillor Burback.
Thank you. Yeah, I was looking at the Special Projects Reserve Fund, and I'm curious as to if there are any restrictions on what that might be used for. And the way I'm thinking about it is there are certain projects. I think one of them was having a diversity, equity, and inclusion project manager. Another one that was put forward, we had a petition about it actually that we received today about having a climate coordinator. And I'm wondering if projects like that are special one-time projects that we really need could be funded out of this Special Projects Reserve.
Carmen?
Thank you, through the chair. I would say that as a general statement that could be possible. However, there are like most of the funds in that particular reserve have been committed to specific projects. So I think as of right now, there's over, I think, $450,000 roughly in the reserve at the moment. And of that, some of it's been committed to service delivery review implementation. Some of it's legislatively committed to the cannabis enforcement issue. So there's a number of things that are included in that reserve that are already committed. I want to say there's maybe only on top of this report, another 40,000 or so that would be considered uncommitted or could be potentially reallocated, that is. I hope that helps answer the question.
Yes, it does. To me, I just the curling tournament versus some of our other urgent needs is a little bit of a priority discussion that maybe we can have during budget time.
Sure, and if I could go a little bit further through the chair, one of the things with some of the funds that are in there that are, I'll say, like more dated or their purpose might have since expired or changed. The intent behind the curling was that the two amounts that were referenced in the report relate to funding that was received for a meth project, and then the other one was the Hockey Day in Canada. So those particular things I would say are like the projects are since completed or there's a really kind of considered surplus fund. So to try to maintain the integrity of the sporting relationship was kind of the intent behind using it for the curling purpose. But certainly, as you said, that could be something that could be discussed through council.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Councillor Gaffney?
Yes, Your Worship.
To give the background, in 2010, the community, through minor sports groups, put on with the city's Support Hockey Day in Canada. $110,000 was returned to the minor hockey groups for their participation as funds to help fund their programming. And it was chosen to keep almost, I think, 60 or 70,000 in a reserve fund to support tourism within the city and to bid on large national or provincial championships. So that was in keeping with the wishes of the group that did the work to put that money forward. The other funds came from the provincial government's $1 million grant in 2008 from the city's leadership role we took on a meth task force that was a best practice for the province. And that money was left in an effort if we had any other community education awareness programs that developed, because we had a reoccurrence of opioid or drug problems within community. And over the years, that need was not identified as a place to spend money. And that money has sat there since, I believe the last time it was accessed was 2012, but I'll leave that to Carmen.
Thank you, Your Worship. If there's nothing else, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Item 7.4, municipal investment performance for 2020 with a partial update for 2021. Moved by Councillor Clifford, second by Councillor Ingram. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Item 7.5, municipal debt limits 2021-2022 update. Moved by Councillor Ingram, seconded by Councillor Burback. Any questions on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. 7.6, request for funding St. Mary's Healthcare Foundation. Before we have a motion, do we want to have, does anybody have any questions on this item or comments? Seeing none, I'll look for a mover. Councillor Vasilakos and Councillor Seven. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried, but they were also asking, staff was also asking for direction on this item. Councillor Burback have a suggestion?
Yeah, that was my question. I didn't know what the motion actually was, because don't we need to make a recommendation?
I'm asking for a recommendation from council. I think does the director have something she wanted to say?
Through the chair, I could maybe clarify it for council. I think that this came back, council had previously made a resolution to accept the request from St. Mary's as it was, but the subcommittee had asked staff to go back and check with St. Mary's or bring it back once we had heard back from St. Mary's as to what their plan was. So that's why you're seeing it again. If in the absence of any further direction, then I think that the first motion to defer consideration of contributions until such time as the hospice contributions are repaid in full would still stand, but we were just looking for any additional or different direction than that.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any different direction? And Councillor Henderson.
I'm confused. I thought that, okay, so we were waiting for more information, but we had decided to donate to the Stratford General Hospital once the hospice is paid. And I think maybe what we should do is at the time that we're going to start paying for the Stratford General Hospital, maybe we could relook at this again and see how we are financially, because we really can't add anything else to the budget. That's just my feelings on this.
Yes, I think that's what the director was suggesting, and I'm kind of hoping someone will make that motion. Councillor Henderson, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Vasilakos. And Councillor Vasilakos has a question, or?
Just a comment. Usually these requests go into the community grants, like we refer them to the budget, goes into the community grants discussion, and then similar to the Stratford General Hospital, it would then be discussed once our current commitment to, that's my understanding, once our current commitment to the hospice is completed, then those would then become considerations. That was my understanding.
Okay, I see the clerk has her hand up.
Through the chair, my apologies. It's my understanding that the first motion that was moved by Councillor Vasilakos and seconded by Councillor Seven was that council consider this request for funding in addition to the proposed 2022 budget and direct staff accordingly. That motion was moved in second and the question was called. Now it's my understanding there is another motion moved by Councillor Henderson and seconded by Councillor Vasilakos, but I apologize. I do not know what the contents of that motion is at this time.
Sorry. The motion is for us to refer this to the 2022 budget deliberations under the grant program. Is that right, Kathy?
Yeah, that's usually where these land, but I could be wrong. But yeah, that's what I thought.
Is that acceptable to the clerk?
Through the chair, yes, I am just finalizing my draft minutes.
And the director?
And yes, typically, Councillor Vasilakos, we would do it that way, except that we just had specific direction to learn what St. Mary's was doing on this particular issue and bring it back to council. But you're right, it can be taken up at that later date.
Thank you. Councillor Seven.
Thank you. Could I just clarify, because direction was given and moved forward with council previously, is this something that would require notice of consideration? Because I feel like we're giving direction on the exact same thing. I'm just seeking clarification.
Madam Clerk.
So through the chair, so it's my understanding no direction was given on the actual request. It simply was deferred until a decision from the town of St. Mary's was provided to staff. As the matter was deferred, staff have prepared this follow-up report to provide this information and was seeking additional direction on this request at this time.
Councillor Seven.
Okay, thank you. So if I could follow up. So there were two pieces to the original motion. One was to seek more information, and then the other one was to approve, like to provide the funding once hospice payments were finished, or am I not understanding that?
So through the chair, the direction was to defer consideration of this matter until a decision from the town of St. Mary's was provided to staff.
Okay.
Councillor Vasilakos.
Okay, so I think what was at the time, because I think it was my deferral, was we don't want to make a decision or consider this item until we see that there's a commitment from the other municipality. And now that we have actually heard that they have made a commitment, we will now actually refer this item to the budget deliberations under the grant allocation, which already has a set amount within the budget, like we do anything else. So I think that I thought that was sort of a logical way, rather than trying today to try to decide whether we can fund this and how we can fund this, but then just to send it over to the grant committee like we do any other grant requests, including the one from the hospital. Does that clarify for you, Councillor Seven?
Councillor Seven.
Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. I just, so then to clarify, would this be, if this was not moved forward by the grant committee, would this, would it show that it, I think I'm remembering now how it works. So then it would show that they did not approve it, and then council would have the option to discuss it at that point?
The grant committee makes recommendations, council makes the final decision. So yes.
Thank you. Anybody else? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Item 7.7, ratepayer request for property tax relief. Everybody read that. Does anybody wish to make a motion on this? Councillor Henderson?
I move the staff recommendation.
Through
With
the chair.
with which option? Madam Clerk.
Sorry, through the chair, there is a subcommittee recommendation, and that's that the report ratepayer request for tax relief be received for information and that no change be made to the assessed city taxes.
Oh, yes, you're right. Thank you. So Councillor Henderson was making that motion. Councillor Clifford was seconding it. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Item 8.1 for, item 8 for information of committee. 8.1 presentation by Jim Van Ness. Item 9, adjournment. Moved by Councillor Ingram, seconded by Councillor Vasilakos. All those in favor? Opposed to pay, that's carried. Thanks, everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Planning and Heritage Committee to order. Councillor Beatty provides regrets for this meeting. Item number 2, disclosures of pecuniary interests. Seeing none. Item 3, delegations. None scheduled. Item 4, a report of the chief building official. Item 4.1. Proposed amendment to the building bylaw number 112-2005, including fee schedule A. And there is a staff recommendation that council approve the amendment to the building bylaw 112-2005 and increase permit fees for all types of building permits as of January 1, 2022. Moved by Councillor Ingram, second by Councillor Vasilakos. Questions or discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed of any, and that's unanimous. And item number 5 is adjournment. Moved by Councillor Burbach, second by Councillor Seven. All in favor? And that's unanimous, and we're adjourned. Thank you.
Councillor Ritzma, I'll turn it back over to the clerk.
So through you, your worship, in council reconvene, item 15.1 is declarations of pecuniary interest made at standing committees. Are there any declarations made at standing committee to be restated at the reconvene portion?
I don't believe so.
Moving to item 15.2, committee reports. Item 15.2.1 is the Finance and Labor Relations Committee, and there are various items listed, as we just heard from the previous committee meeting. So item 5.1 is the update of the call-in and standby for management policy. Item 6.1 is the tax adjustment summary 2021. Item 7.1 is the interim tax levy due dates bylaw for 2022. Item 7.2 is a temporary borrowing bylaw for 2022. Item 7.3 is the reserve fund utilization 2022 budget. Item 7.4 is the municipal investment performance for 2020 with a partial update for 2021. Item 7.5 was the municipal debt limits 2021 to 2022 update. Item 7.6 was the request for funding St. Mary's Healthcare Foundation, and that motion will be to refer the request to the 2022 grants program. And item 7.7 was ratepayer request for property tax relief.
Mover for that report, Councillor Gaffney, second by Councillor Vasilakos. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any?
Item 15.2.2 is the Planning and Heritage Committee, and there's one item listed, and that was item 4.1, proposed amendment to Building Bylaw 1112-2005, including fee Schedule A.
Moved by Councillor Ritzma, seconded by Councillor Vasilakos. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried.
Item 15.3 is reading of the bylaws, and there are four bylaws listed for consideration as follow. Bylaw 11.8 is to revise building permit fees. Bylaw 11.9 is the temporary borrowing bylaw. Bylaw 1110 is the interim tax levy for 2022, and bylaw 11.11 is the confirmatory bylaw. And these bylaws can be taken collectively upon unanimous vote of council present.
Moved by Councillor Bunting and second by Councillor Ingram to be taken collectively. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. First and second reading. Councillor Clifford and Councillor Vasilakos for bylaws 11.8, 9, 10, and 11. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Third and final reading is Councillor Gaffney and seconded by Councillor Henderson for bylaw 11.8, 9, 10, and 11. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. That concludes this afternoon's meeting, and of course, it's the last scheduled meeting of the year for Stratford City Council. To all the members of council and all the staff of the city, on behalf of Ms. Thompson and myself, we'd like to say thank you to everyone for their efforts this year during the pandemic. They've challenged us in many different ways. Some have made us stronger, some have frustrated us, and some have made us better. And I think for all of us, 2021 was one where we came together as a community and continue to do so. So I thank all of you for your efforts, both within the corporation, with the staff, but also for council. And to the broader community, we wish everyone a very safe and happy and enjoyable holiday and Christmas season. May you enjoy some time with those that matter to you. We ask you to be safe and to continue to take public health guidance into consideration when making your plans, but wish you all the best for much health and happiness in 2022. So with that, Ms. Thompson, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to add just to what Mayor Matheson had said, and looking forward to seeing everyone safely in the new year. So take care. Thank you.
A motion to adjourn this afternoon's proceedings. Councillor Clifford and Councillor Ritzma. Discussion. Not all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Holidays.
Stay safe, everyone.